Today on the Topping Show, RFK goes viral for saying that Biden is a bigger threat to democracy than Trump due to Biden's illegal censorship of citizens. Biden's insulin prices drop tweet is ratioed by the comments that are actually crediting Trump. Vivek on the U.S. Citizen Services creating a third gender option. J.K. Rowling beats Scotland's new compelled speech law. Candace Owens tweets that she's passed 5 million users on X Twitter. Budlight family worker story mostly flops on X Twitter. Rivian and Tesla sales are flat or decreasing Q1 and things are not looking good. General Electric completes their splitting into 3 companies, and California restaurants are in some cases doubling the prices of their food based on the new minimum wage laws. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day because I say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Rivian. Sales are in for Q1 and they're mostly flat. Some might say flatter than a Bud Light. Granted, not many would say that because it's not ordering Bud Light, but aside the point. This comes to us thanks to electrek.com, or .co rather, which A+ for marketing, you know exactly what they're all about. And Peter Johnson over there, a writer, said specifically Rivian's, quote, deliveries remain flat in Q1 as EV maker prepares for plant shutdown. Now it looks like we're getting some of the EV numbers in terms of production. Now, the Q4 was not doing so great. Their Q4, geez Louise, yeah, they went from 17,541 units in Q4, then go to Q1, it's down to 13,980. So that's quite a dip. Now, they also noted that they delivered 13,588 vehicles during the quarter, which is slightly down from the last quarter as well. So it's not looking great for them. Now, in terms of the losses per unit, that's also not moving in the right direction. Now, in Q3 2022, Rivian lost $139,277 per vehicle sold. Then Q4 2022, they lost $124,000. Q1 2023, they lost $67,000. Q2 2023, they lost $32,000. Q3 2023, they lost $30,000. And then Q4 2023, they increased $43,000. So they were moving in the right direction. And again, all these companies have huge losses, especially in the beginning, because again, there's a huge overhead of research, development, and manufacturing the whole vehicle, and just setting up the equipment, and there's a whole infrastructure you have to set up. So it's not too surprising they were losing, $139,000 per vehicle sold when they were first debuting them. And again, you see this from also Lucid as well. They're struggling with the same issue, though their losses are even worse. That being said, Lucid also has a Saudi Arabia government behind them, so they have some deep pockets if anything ever really gets too bad for them. Now with Rivian, they know they also were cutting 10% of their salaried workforce in February this year, and their CEO, RJ Scarange, said that they're doing a move to maximize the brand's ability and make an impact and expand. That's kind of what their goals are these days, which, they are doing some more commercials. And I don't know if it's just because I say the word Rivian, I see it on the Facebook, but I have seen them, and it's they're getting better at marketing. It's oddly interesting when you have a commercial with no sound. It's a good differentiator. It makes you think the app is broken for a New York Minute. And then they have one where there's no engine sound, but you can hear the tire sound of the gravel road. So it's actually a pretty good ad. Now, granted, it's still an electric truck with obviously 2 pedals. Of course, you know me. If I'm getting a vehicle, I'm spending my hard-earned money on it. That vehicle is going to have 3 pedals, also known as manual transmission. The best way to drive a vehicle, bar none. You will smile every time you drive it. It's a unique experience. I can't recommend it enough. Now, in terms of money in bank, Rivian ended the quarter with $9.37 billion in cash and equivalents. The company revealed its smaller, more affordable R2 last month, which will start around $45,000. That's more their SUV, which, again, you look at American preferences, SUV market is huge. It's one of the reasons Ford basically doesn't make any cars anymore, with the exception of the iconic Mustang. They abandoned the category altogether. Even General Motors, most of the small cars are out. It's really one of the biggest growing segments. Although, rest in peace, the minivan, not a lot of people are buying those anymore. So Rivian, they're trying to make some moves, but they're gonna have that new product, so that should help out. There's going to be some people who want the SUV, and it's lower price point, so that should help too. But Also, for EVs for a lot of folks, it's a purely luxury product. You can't really depend on it 100% of the time. Also, good luck trying to sell it or trying to have it more than 3 to 5 years when you have to replace that battery that's more expensive than my car. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to Rivian, but again, with the unprecedented economic, political uncertainty, not too surprised that people might be pulling back, or not might be, they are pulling back when it comes to luxury products such as a Rivian truck. But let me know, I've seen one in person, they look pretty cool. Granted, not my cup of tea, as the British might say, or not my choice of AR-15 manufacturer, as Americans might say. But let me know in the comments, would you ever buy a Rivian, or do you like the brand? Do you think they'll make it? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Tesla. Their sales dropped by more than 60,000 vehicles for Q1. That is not great. Now, that being said, the government's also outlawing internal combustion engines in the United States via de facto emission bans. So the government's doing, and you have that $7,500 tax rebate. The government's doing, they're pulling every lever they can to try to push EVs on the American public. And yeah, there are some organic demand in terms of people who would want an electric vehicle. But the biggest overwhelming contributing factor is the government, which, again, they've done that throughout time with different industries and pushing different initiatives. So it's not a new thing. Now, with this, Tesla, they're getting so desperate. We covered this earlier in the week. It's one of those instances where even Tesla's starting to pay for advertisements, which historically they never really did. Statistically speaking, they spend nothing, and then I think in 2020 they spent like 75 grand, which for them was nothing relatively speaking. Then they increased it by like 3,000% to a couple $1 million on the Facebook. So again, they're starting to suffer in terms of they have real competition now. They have a couple, wholly electric companies like Rivian who's starting to challenge them, and you also have the legacy auto manufacturers who are catching up. So I mean, some people are buying the Ford trucks. They're electric. The Ford Mustang E-Mach for the people who don't know what a real Mustang is, or just hate themselves maybe. And then you have General Motors making stuff, allegedly. They sell things. Kidding, partially. But they do have their electric vehicles that some people appreciate. But again, at the end of the day, right now, Tesla's a luxury item costing, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 plus. Again, like Rivian, like most automotive companies, are trying to get a entry-level economic EV in the market sooner rather than later. The rumor is $24,000 price point, what they're hoping for. Which again, with newer technologies and newer efficiencies, they might be able to get to that price point. I mean, the big elephant or panda in the room is China, where they have the BYD, which is a manufacturer out of China, where they have a $10,000 EV, which would basically destroy everyone when it comes to a price competition, because you're not going to beat China when it comes down to price. They have a much better business-friendly environment. They have more red tape than a dictionary, and they also actually incentivize business. The businesses aren't kneecapped by the government. They also have a lot of things working for them. Less regulation. The EPA shutting down factories in China. That's definitely not happening. Though they are kneecapping, they're actually the antithesis. They're actually expanding their energy capacity in China. But I partially digress. Going back to Tesla, Elon Musk said it delivered 386,810 vehicles in the first 3 months of FY 2024, ending March 31st, which is down 20% from the previous quarter, and down 8.5% from a year ago. Which, again, on average, doesn't matter. Well, it always, to a certain extent, it matters who's running for president in the United States, but usually most businesses during the election year, the sales decrease because everything decreases really. There's just uncertainty in the market, which is what kills a lot of most spending initiatives. Businesses themselves decrease on their internal research development. They usually decrease on their spending. And a lot of consumers do the same thing. Also doesn't help that you got 40-year high hyperinflation in the United States. That's not helping anyone, thanks to the ineptitudes of the Republicans and the Democrats. Now, you also have Tesla saying that they missed the consensus of Wall Street estimated 449,080 deliveries, so they missed it by more than 62,000 vehicles. Its largest margin to date, which, again, once you're publicly traded, one of the biggest things that can hurt or help you is missing or exceeding Wall Street expectations. People will sell the stock just because they missed this goal. I mean, and actually now that I think about it, perhaps it didn't dent them at all, but if we pull up their stock their stock dropped 7.86% over the past couple of days earlier this week, which, again, that's not insignificant. That's a pretty big dip. And again, you look at the top, we just go on the Brave or go on the Google and just search Tesla stock. or Tesla. And the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like an overwhelming majority of these articles are talking about the drop in deliveries, because again, that's also a drop in sales. And one of the worst things possible about technology, or when it comes to research, when it comes to investing in technology, you now have those assets just sitting around and depreciating. And with technology moving so quickly, they could become worthless. This is what made Dell really successful. Michael Dell, they had the just-in-time delivery mechanism or methodology, where traditional computer companies would, they manufacture, let's say, 10,000 PCs or 10,000 laptops and desktops. They throw them in a warehouse and then try to sell them. Well, computers move so quickly in terms of research development and becoming more efficient, faster. If you don't sell them quickly, they are worth nothing just because newer tech is more efficient, it's cheaper. Now you have that warehouse full of junk. Now, of course, electric vehicles don't move quite as quickly as computers, though they are glorified computers on wheels. That's another issue that I'm actually surprised not more of these articles are bringing up in terms of significance. And in fact, they actually specified in this Yahoo Finance article, specifically the stock fell by 5.6% due to this news. And let's see, they say that BYD, of course, they mentioned BYD pursuing an aggressive pricing strategy, trying to take some of Tesla's market share. But even BYD looks like, fell short of BYD's rivals. They put out 526,000 vehicles, geez Louise, during the same time period. Which BYD does have hybrids as well, so the numbers might be a little bit skewed, of course. But it's not great news for Tesla when they used to be, I think most people could still consider them an industry leader, but they are starting to get a lot of competition, and you have this bad economy. I don't know anyone, anecdotally speaking, I don't know anyone who's going out and buying a new vehicle, yet alone an expensive luxury EV. It's just, some might say, not in the cards these days. They'll let me know. Do you think Tesla is going to, make a comeback Q2 this year? Do you think their sales are going to go off the charts? Or do you think the government will have to do some type of extra spiff, or instead of $7,500, tax rebate, they do a 10, 20, 30 grand. It's all tax money. Why not? They'll just say, we'll just give it away. It'll be interesting to see, or if the government just makes, internal combustion engines illegal, which they are slowly but surely doing with their mandates. And so, be interesting to see what the future is for Tesla, but it's not every day you see them have a hiccup, so to say, and those hiccups are slowly starting to add up. It'll be fascinating to see what happens to Tesla, but as I always say, time shall tell. Other interesting business news, you have GE completing its split into 3 companies, which I was going to say, who would have thought one of the most successful multi-conglomerate companies on the planet would split so much? I mean, Jack Welch is perhaps the most famous CEO who really took that company into the stratosphere. At one point, they made everything from refrigerators to radios to nuclear bombs to even the GE minigun. I mean, if you've ever played a video game or seen a cool video on the YouTube with a minigun, GE was the one that brought that technology from the minigun to the forefront. Subsequently, it was later actually, the repair parts were usually by Dillon, which is why they call it the Dillon minigun now, because Dillon eventually got to the point where they manufactured their whole thing instead of just doing replacement parts. But I partially digress. They had one of the most diverse portfolios everywhere. And unfortunately, they've just been spinning off more and more stuff. A couple of years back, they actually sold off their appliances division. So when you see a GE appliance, like you see a stove or you see a refrigerator that says GE, it's not really GE. It's just some company out of China. It's just a white label. So just paying a licensing agreement, basically. They might even just sold off the intellectual property altogether, now that I think about it. And incidentally enough, it's just chiseled away at what they used to be. Now, in terms of this LinkedIn article from Kate Chaplin, they note that General Electric has completed its $191.9 billion devolution into 3 independent businesses, spinning off clean energy company GE Verona. They note that, quote, a slimmed-down GE Aerospace also launched a separate entity. A GE Healthcare has also been a standalone company since last year. The transition camps more than a century since Thomas Edison founded the company, which Jack Welch famously expanded into the world's biggest industrial conglomerate in the 1980s and 90s. Its market cap in 2000 was $600 billion, and it actually shrunk all the way down to $191 billion before the final spinoff. The Verona business is expected to capitalize on the economy's shifting away from fossil fuels, which is also why everything has become prohibitively expensive, especially gasoline, as the government cracks down on permits and says, "Oh yeah, we're going to be what was it, the EPA latest mandate. They want to be 100% carbon neutral by 2030 or something arbitrary like that, which again also cripples the oil industry because banks aren't going to give you loans if your company's going to be deregulated out of business, or regulated out of business, more accurately said. They note that the three-way split was masterminded by former GE CEO Larry Culp, who is now the CEO of GE Aerospace. Scott Stranzik is the CEO of GE Verona. Axios declared the second split of the Jack Welch era, noting the Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav will be the last Welch disciple left leading a major U.S. company after the announced departure of David Calhoun at Boeing. So one of the most historically significant companies of our time, and many times actually, which used to do damn near everything, is now split into 3 independent companies. And I think we see the pendulum swing back and forth every couple of several years when it comes to business methodologies and strategies. You have some of the ideology of, build up companies' portfolio as much as possible, gain as much market share. Then pendulum usually inevitably seems to swing back to, go to your core competencies. What do you do best? Let's focus on that. With 2024, with all the mechanisms set in place to have a bad economy, I think we'll probably see more businesses doing this type of methodology where they're going to spin off entities that maybe are not the most profitable and then just focus on what is most profitable for the company. Because again, during hard times, you only have X amount of dollars of research and development and support. And more often than not, they want to put that into the most profitable divisions of business. So instead of letting the other ones just kind of acquiesce and do nothing, spin it off, and then they could be wholly dedicated to that one task or product. So I'm not too surprised. GE's been a big company for a long time. A lot of people were calling for this. And I suspect, being leaner, meaner, more efficient, they might be able to operate better independently. But let me know, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think, is this, going to backfire on them? Might they go out of business? Or might one of the new companies go out of business because of this? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the Culture Pod podcast, you have J.K. Rowling beating Scotland's new compelled speech law, aka hate crime law. Now this comes thanks to J.K. Rowling's ex-Twitter account, and she has been one of the most outspoken advocates of free speech, and also she is pushing against what is culturally known as trans ideology. So J.K. Rowling is of the opinion that you should not be compelled to use someone's, what is commonly referred to as preferred pronouns, which I believe Harvard says there's now 75 different pronouns, which if you go on LinkedIn, you'll probably see about half of them. I can't keep track of them at all. There's a lot of them. English teachers are pissed. I'll just say that much because, back in my day, there meant, 2 or 3 people, not one. So the grammar alone is driving some teachers up the wall, I'm sure. Not the teachers that are allowed to live with TikTok, but I partially digress. Now, J.K. Rowling linked to an article where the police have said that they will not arrest J.K. Rowling. Now, J.K. Rowling said before this article, she said, quote, "I hope every woman in Scotland who wishes to speak up for the reality and importance of biological sex will be reassured by this announcement, and I trust that all women, irrespective of profile or financial means, will be treated equally under the law," unquote. Which, unfortunately, I kind of suspect not, just because of resource allocation. If you don't have a lot of money, you probably can't fight the charges that are brought before you. And one of the reasons why I suspect they didn't want to arrest her, because people would be royally pissed, pun moderately intended, because I think did the Queen or someone in Britain give her a trophy or something, or knight her, something to that effect. But still, in instances where there are a couple of people on the planet who still believe in free speech, they might not be the loudest on social media, but they are certainly out there. Now, going to this article, and again, it went, as youth might say, viral. This got more likes than I think anything I've covered on the show this year. So J.K. Rowling on X Twitter got 3.8 million views and 107,000 likes. 107,001 like, thanks to me. Probably. They actually don't tell you the last 3 numbers. They just tell you 107K. But, point made. Now, going to the article, this is coming from bbc.com. And they note that J.K. Rowling hate law post not criminal, police say. This is brought to us thanks to Megan Boner and Katie Scott over at BBC Scotland News. Which, of all the countries to, not like free speech, I would not have guessed Scotland. I thought, granted my knowledge of it is mostly comical and through skit comedy, but I wouldn't think they'd be all sensitive and acquiescing to 1984 thought control and newspeak. But again, there are also those people who get into power and do whatever they darn well want to do. Now, the police said that they received complaints, but no action will be taken. Now, J.K. Rowling said, quote, "If they go after any woman for simply calling a man, I'll repeat that woman's words and they can charge both of us at once," unquote. Which, that's pretty risky in terms of J.K. Rowling, because she would be liable and she can get in trouble. But putting her neck out like that could inspire others to, and I know this word is used well too often, or far too often these days, but in this case, I think you could argue the word brave, because you could seriously be arrested. I mean, you look at some places like Canada, where they will actually arrest you for making fun of their political leaders, for memes, which unfortunately they're starting to do that in the United States as well. And if you misgender someone in some countries, there are some instances where you will be jailed. Truth be told, in Canada, if a child of yours identifies as something else and you do not affirm them, they will kidnap, their word is take your child from you so that they can transition the child. That should horrify everyone in terms of paternal rights. Now, going back to the BBC article, they note that the Hate Crime and Public Order Scotland Act of 2021 makes it an offence to behave in a threatening or abusive manner with the intention of stirring up hatred based on disability, religion, sexual orientation, transgender identity, or being intersex, unquote. Now, they also say stirring up hatred based on race, color, nationality, or ethnicity was already illegal in Great Britain under the Public Order Act of 1986, but is now included in the new law, unquote. Which, that was so close to the dystopian novel by George Orwell. That law really should have been passed in 1984, let's be honest. I mean, that would, maybe perhaps that would have been too on point, but it should be. Now, they say that since the law has come into effect Monday earlier this week, police in Scotland have received more than 3,000 complaints, which isn't enough. Now, perhaps the instance where you're glad you're not seeing this picture in picture. They say Katie Rees, a trans woman, was recently appointed to UN Women UK delegate, was mentioned by Ms. Rowling in a previous thread on X. The author claimed that this is BBC's words, not mine, Ms. Reeves, again, biological man, quote, switched from a straight man to a lesbian at age 48, unquote. Ms. Reeves told the BBC knew that she was very disappointed in the Scotland police. So this individual was disappointed someone was not arrested for not agreeing with their ideology. Which, again, should tell you exactly where they stand on the moral high ground. Or low ground, what would be more apt? The ditch? The gutters? Something to that effect. Again, believe whatever you want, but you should not be, my 3 cents, used to be 2 cents, but 40-year hyperinflation thanks to the government, you shouldn't be compelling anyone's speech, yet alone arresting them for not agreeing with you. Now, going down, you also say that, he, Mr. Reeves, this is BBC's words, so they say she said, the vernacular alone, the grammar is complex to say the least, J.K. Rowling is a bully, and this act is designed to stop bullying, and if they're not going to enforce it, it's going to be very disappointing. She listed me and other trans people along with some sex offenders and put it out to 14 million of her followers, unquote. So this individual is also concerned about protecting the feelings of sex offenders. What? Who gives a damn about their feelings? Those people are the most mentally and morally vacuous of all. If you're a convicted sex offender, you should be mocked in public. And yet this person is worried that, you're making fun of these sex offenders. What? That mentally vacuous, to say the least. Now, of course, Neves said the story that is published all over the world is, quote, misinformation about me. Which, then you also have a couple of Prime Minister, this is hilarious. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak earlier backed Ms. Rowling's stance in the UK, had a proud tradition of free speech, but would not be drawn on whether he supported her free speech, saying it was, quote, not right for me to comment on police matters, individual matters. He added, quote, we should be criminalizing people saying common sense. We should not be criminalizing people saying common sense things about biological sex. Clearly, that isn't right. We have a proud tradition of free speech. So why not say, just black and white, just say, Miss J.K. Rowling is right. Her speech is protected. Because again, unpopular speech doesn't need to be protected. That's useless in terms of necessity of protection. It's going to be the default. Very few people are ever going to get in trouble for saying the sky is blue. Although these days, who knows? They'd probably say, oh no, it's blue, but on some days it has white clouds. So inevitably you probably piss off a couple of people or annoy a couple of people. But again, when you go, and again, I know this is another country, and that's what's uniquely about the United States. We have the Bill of Rights and things such as the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. But one of this is where, again, we read the founding father documents. Free speech matters most when it's unpopular, because again, that's when the mobs and the governments will attack them. That's really the speech that needs to be protected, whether we agree with it or not. I don't care what the subject is. Now, scrolling down more and more, it'd be interesting to see, let's see here, rate relief, what the long-term implications is. Because again, for now, J.K. Rowling has won this one. And I suspect when we go to the comments, we'll see maybe a 50-50 split. Because again, this has become a whole cultural and political issue in the United States, even though personally I would have thought, well, maybe 30 years ago when most Americans are proud patriots, they knew what the Bill of Rights was and the founding fathers' intentions were. I mean, ideally 100% of Americans should believe everyone deserves free speech. Compelled speech is illegal. You can't force someone to call you anything. I mean, no, it's ridiculous. However, we've had an influx of a lot of ideologies that are not American in the United States throughout the years. Yuri Bezmenov from Russia was certainly right when he talked about the methodologies that could destroy the United States by infecting our culture. Now, one of the first comments comes from Wolf, which I was going to say, A+ for marketing. The profile picture is in fact of a wolf, and the wolf, their name actually has a wolf emoji in there. Although I don't think wolves can type, so we'll say it's alleged wolf. It says, quote, what J.K. Rowling is doing is truly remarkable. She's testing the limits of the new law, knowing every time Police Scotland doesn't arrest her, it sets the precedent for others to speak freely. And if she is arrested, Husman Yazov will be forced out of office that week. Bravo, J.K. Unquote, getting 2.9 thousand likes. Brad Turgenston says, quote, notice how BBC still calls them hate crime tweets, even though they're not criminal. LOL, the Beeb, world-class journalism. Unquote, getting 1.7 thousand likes. You also have the rabbit hole saying, quote, remember that free speech can and will be weaponized as an excuse to censor, unquote, getting 1.6 thousand likes, including myself. Because, again, read any book, it astonishes me. I mean, maybe you shouldn't be too surprised that the public school system or the education system in the United States doesn't give you great works of art to actually read and learn about, like Animal Farm and George Orwell's brilliant works of art. But these top two books being perhaps Animal Farm in 1984. I mean, there's never an instance in history when government censoring their citizens is a good thing, or disarming their citizens is a good thing. And historically speaking, that's usually is right before the worst things in history happen, which, spoiler alert, is always because of governments. Going down, you also have the women in Scotland saying, quote, thank you for forcing this issue. Let us hope police training will now reflect this so that no woman is persecuted going forward, unquote, getting 1.3 thousand likes. Recall Katie Hobbs says, quote, they don't ban hate speech, they ban speech that they hate, unquote, by Elon Musk, getting 322 likes. Mendy Howie says, quote, every woman in Scotland hopefully can find the courage through J.K. Rowling's post to voice their opinion about biological facts and the importance of women's rights and children's safety. Take this current debacle on free speech as an opportunity to speak out and speak up. Getting 1,000 likes. Let's see here. Shayuna says, quote, this man is the new UN Women's UK delegate. Katie Neves has been appointed to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, which promotes women's empowerment across the world. Which, I mean, I would have thought some people would have thought that would be sexist if you have a biological man now in charge of women empowerment. Or maybe it's ironic. But it looks like this individual is going to attempt to play the guitar. And this could be comical. We'll play it.
There once was a girl at the age of 3, told her mum, this is how I want to be. Her mum said, no, you're a boy, you know it's how it's meant to be. Soon may transition come to bring me blockers and hormones, mum. Why won't you listen to me? I want to be happy.
I know your ears are, my ears aren't bleeding technically. It's just so morally, mentally vacuous, disgusting. it almost feels like my ears should be bleeding. I mean, not only is this individual's voice worse than mine, which is saying something, but yeah, a 3-year-old. This is the person in charge of women's empowerment at the United Nations, which is an entity in and of itself. It's just redundant, and I would argue probably did more bad than good. There's only about 36 seconds left, so I apologize, but we'll suffer through it together. Now, thankfully, you don't have to see this individual because then your eyes might bleed.
The girl grew up and her voice grew deep. Her mum saw her unhappiness creep. Her mum said, I know you're a...
Wait a minute. Let me rewind that. So why would the voice... so is this person saying the person... Because, I mean, your voice goes down when you're a boy and you grow up. So off the bat, is this individual saying the person born a boy was actually a girl? I think that's what they're implying with the vernacular there. We'll scroll back. Let's say, go back to the part where it says, why don't you listen with me? Well, because you're 3. No responsible parent on the planet would listen to a 3-year-old, would let them call the shots. I mean, it's almost a cliche note to bring it up, but you don't let a kid get a tattoo. You don't let a kid drink. You don't let kids smoke. You don't let them stay out late with their friends if they're 3 years old. This is the one topic where they're saying, oh yeah, we're going to listen to the kids. Never before in history have parents been this vacuous mentally, or perhaps they're just cowards because they're worried because, again, culturally speaking, some people bully the parents. In some countries, they'll take the kid away, like in Canada. They'll kidnap your kid from you if you don't acquiesce to what the kid thinks is right. But again, kids do not understand long-term negative ramifications. All these drugs that they're pumping these kids in with, there's no long-term test for them. I mean, some of them are legit drugs used to castrate sex offenders. They're given to children. There are some people who genuinely think that's a good idea. And while I'm not, I certainly definitely have my opinion and my bias, it's one of the few things where I can 110% say there's no conceivable way that I would ever allow that to happen if I were to someday be blessed with a family.
Why won't you listen to me? I want to be happy.
Even after transitioning, this person, maybe some in the comments might say I'm jealous because this individual has much better hair than mine. This individual's hair is quite long and what you call it, luscious, so there's lots of it. Perhaps, but the voice not matching the image is quite interesting.
The girl grew up and her voice grew deep. Her mum saw her unhappiness creep. Her mum said, I know you're a girl, I'll support you all the way.
So because the kid's unhappy, you're supposed to let them do whatever they want. I was about to say it's almost as bad. This is much worse, but you also have those irresponsible parents where a kid cries and you just give them candy, which again, America's the most obese country on the planet. Don't reinforce that by just giving your kid candy. You're just like rewarding a tantrum. I think that's perhaps one of the greatest reasons society and culture of America has decayed so much, by parents pretending like they're the kid's friend and not the parent. But I partially digress.
Soon may transition come to bring me blockers and hormones, mum. At last I am the real me, and now I am happy. And now I am happy.
A kid drinking what do they call it, a tub or quart of ice cream, they'll be happy for a second. Not long term, though. Usually they'll throw up, they'll gain weight. And the statistics have shown, and unfortunately, this is a little bit of a dark topic because some people will take their own lives. The rate at which they do that is the same regardless of the transition procedures, which again, to me, indicates that's not the solution. I would say compassion and proper support from the parents, not, I was going to say, heaven forbid you take them to a therapist these days, since a lot of the therapists are going to push this on them. 10 seconds left. Wow. Perhaps another offense, it's a fade out. So 1990s. And the last text on the screen says, trans people are just ordinary people who want to be happy. And it has kids' fonts saying, cool trans. That's who's in charge of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women and promoting women empowerment. I'm actually surprised it didn't go more viral. That got 136 likes in the comment section. Now, scrolling down more and more, you have one bad dude saying, quote, this, and it says Dr. Seuss in the text on the made-up book says, if you're born with a dick, then you're not a chick, unquote, getting 1,000 likes. Red Wave Press says, quote, awesome news. I hope more people stand up against men in women's sports. Follow if you agree, unquote, getting 320 likes. So it went, let's see here. Scrolling more and more, seeing if there's, I don't have the wording though. Seeing there's more contrarian statements or comments. Because again, there are a lot of people who want her in jail because of this. They don't want her to have free speech. They don't want any of us to have free speech. Let's see here. Let's see. Well, and again, there's going to be a bias. These are people who are already following J.K. Rowling. And scrolling more and more, it just seems overwhelming support. Now, that being said, at the end of the day, people need to get out and vote appropriately, actually check the background and the voting patterns of whoever you're voting for to see, do they agree with this ideology? Do they agree with free speech? What's their stance on it? Because at the end of the day, most countries have free and fair elections. So, well, some of them also don't check IDs or require IDs to vote, but that's another issue for another time. But in terms of a short win for J.K. Rowling, she's coming up ahead in this regards, and while she may be losing a lot of prospective clients, there's a lot of people who are smearing her whole legacy. A lot of people saying she's throwing everything away. I can't help but respect someone who, again, I don't agree with everything J.K. Rowling says, but someone who's willing to risk everything to stand what they believe in. That's a rare thing these days, and I think she's on the right path. But as always, let me know in the comments if you're fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news of Candace Owens surpassing 5 million users on X Twitter and celebrating with a tweet. Now, she is stratosphered through the whole cultural lexicon as she recently departed with the Daily Wire after they recently fired her. The theory is for her stance on Israel. I can't pronounce things properly more often than not, but it is one of the most heated topics in cultural news, especially in conservative news, where the Daily Wire has consistently been one of the fastest growing conservative media companies, famously headquartered out of Nashville, Tennessee. And they have their, 4 to 6 famous podcasters or, not brand ambassadors, they're podcasters, personalities, whatever vernacular you prefer. And she brought in a very unique audience. Now, also contrarian to some of her colleagues, she was also very pro-America First, very pro-MAGA, or as the youth might call it, Make America Great Again. And she's a very polarizing figure. Now, from an entertainment perspective, she is one of the most successful podcasters, bar none. And I suspect wherever she goes, she'll be wildly popular. Now, recently, she's been brewing to the surface even more because it was let known that they didn't depart, that she was actually fired from the Daily Wire. And the Daily Wire executives are going on other interviews saying they can't talk about the situation, but acknowledging that they had their specific Overton window at the Daily Wire where you're allowed to have certain perspectives, but they wouldn't allow you to work there if you had other perspectives, which, again, that's most media companies. I think a lot of people were shocked because the Daily Wire had been such a stalwart in the past for free speech, and they assumed that meant all free speech, all speech, which, again, I guess Ben Shapiro, the co-founder of the company, still owner as well, they clarified that, well, we have, we believe everyone should have free speech if you're on a platform like X, Twitter, Facebook, what have you, but the Daily Wire is a publication. So obviously, if you're paying someone to work for you and they're paying someone to say stuff, they want them to say what they want to be said. So at the end of the day, I suspect that was probably, that was why there's always been a clashing back and forth on the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens throughout the past couple of years. But I mean, she's gone viral since, even more so than usual, when getting fired. And again, this is no exception to the rule. So she says, quote, wow, 5 million followers. I remain so grateful to each and every one of you for supporting me on this journey and for believing in me through every life transition. Thank you all. Pray your hands. That got 1.9 million views and 54,000 likes, which is quite a few to say the least. And a friendly reminder you can reach me at NICTOPPING or The Topping Show. Both profiles are moderately active on X Twitter. Now, one of the first comments comes from Green C saying, quote, you really got a boost after your Jewish blood libel escapade, unquote. Now, as youth might say, she ratioed this person to say the least. Now, that got 187 likes. Candace says, quote, it's true the absurd lengths taken to try to cancel me completely backfired. As I've said, people have never been more awake to this nonsense than before. Cancel culture is cancel, unquote, getting 1.7 thousand likes. Andrew Tate chimed in saying, quote, they're in trouble, getting 2.7 thousand likes. Ian Carroll says, quote, authenticity earns respect. You've earned every bit of it, getting 1.2 thousand likes. 1984, which A+ for marketing, their picture, profile picture, in fact, does appear to be George Orwell. And they say, quote, we have your back, Candace, congrats. And it's a big meme saying Christ is King, getting 194 likes, which is a reference to these big skirmish between the Daily Wire and Candace Owens, also kind of coincided with the Easter week, and allegedly that's also why Candace got in trouble. Saying the words Christ is King by some people is being interpreted as anti-Semitic because they don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. As I think Ben Shapiro famously said on an interview a couple years ago, they basically said that they thought Jesus was a really nice, good person, but he wasn't, descended from God. That's their belief system. And so that's why some of them are saying, it's anti-Semitic to say that, because they're saying, well, you're saying it to bully them. Which, again, people have been saying that Christ is King for years, because he is. But that's another point of controversy as well when it comes to Candace Owens and the divide that we're seeing in the culture of the conservative media. You also have, let's see here, scrolling down, you have Halal Nation saying come to Islam, getting 568 likes, which, she won't. She's pretty proud of her religion. Pray the Rosary says, quote, congrats, Candace. I host a rosary space every night at 8 p.m. Eastern. You should join us, unquote, getting 121 likes. Censored Med simply said, congratulations, getting 230 likes. Let's see. Nicole, Dignity is a Human Right, said, get your own channel. You have a lot of support. Free America to Free Palestine, getting 13 likes. Scrolling down more and more. Let's see here. So a couple contrarian statements, but overall, a lot of support. Let's see here. Casey Allen says, you'll pass Ben up this year for sure, getting 12 likes, with Ben has around, Candace is at 5. I want to say Ben was at 6.83 million Twitter followers. Quite a few, to say the least. Let's see here. So overwhelming positive support. Of course, a really multi-million-dollar question is, where will she land from here? Will she start her own show? Will she go maybe join the Tucker Carlson network, or perhaps Patrick Bet-David's network? There's quite a few options. Will she go to somewhere like The Blaze? There's a lot of options for her. And very similar to Tucker Carlson, I think, because of her personality, and I think she would be successful wherever she goes, and she could conceivably just start her own entity if she were to go that route. I think she'd still be fairly successful. But let me know, do you think Candace would be most successful working for someone else again? Or do you think she should break out and just start her own company from the ground up? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Bud Light worker story, mostly flops and is kind of sad and depressing. Now this comes to us thanks to Anheuser-Busch's ex-Twitter profile. They say, quote, at Anheuser-Busch, our story isn't just about beer, it's about families like the Johnsons, who continue our legacy by bringing people together generation after generation, unquote. Which, again, 18 months ago, probably would have been pretty effective commercial, but they shot themselves in the foot so bad, spending $185,000 for Dylan Mulvaney, only to lose $1.4 billion in sales and alienate 30% of the audience. Well, aka they've lost 30% of their sales for the Bud Light individual brand. Other brands, again, Anheuser-Busch InBev owns 40 plus beer brands. Other brands were not affected as much, of course. But again, they pissed off their core base so astronomically successfully, a lot of these old cliche commercials won't work anymore. And my first thought when I saw this commercial where they talk about this family lineage of having generations work there was, well, why did you sell out to a foreign entity? You're now owned by Anheuser-Busch InBev, famously headquartered out of Belgium. Incidentally, they don't just make cool rifles and waffles. But again, they're no longer locally owned. They're owned out of Belgium. They're part of Anheuser-Busch InBev. So, and they also, because of that Dylan Mulvaney controversy, they lost so many sales, they had to lay people off. So when I see this, this family lineage, my first thought was, why do you put them in jeopardy by not knowing your customers? By putting so much risk out there? By continuing to not address the elephant or the Dylan in the room? I still believe that if you were to address this issue head on, you'd get some of those sales back. You're not going to get 100%. They royally messed up by not understanding their core audience, and again, trying to sell beer to kids, because again, the average audience member on Twitter, or not Twitter, rather TikTok, which is Dylan Mulvaney's primary social media outlet, is around 15 years old. And Dylan Mulvaney's core audience is also children, aka not appropriate to try to sell them beer. Certainly not appropriate to give Dylan a can that says celebrating 365 days of womanhood, when Bud Light's core audience was, frat boys, country boys, and hardworking Americans. Now, and they try to go after a whole new audience that I don't suspect drinks a lot of beer in general, yet alone that brand. Now, in terms of going viral, quite the antithesis. Quite the opposite. This got 3,748 likes, or views rather. Almost nothing, relatively speaking, for a multi-billion-dollar brand. And it got 9 comments. Not to brag, but a couple weeks ago, I did make a video that got 10 comments. A couple of them were nice, too. And this only got 60 likes, which again is a good friendly reminder. If you do appreciate this content, take the 1/1000th of a second to like this video, or downvote it and let me know in the comments what I can do to make it better. Now, without too much further ado, we'll see how much I can play this here. Let's see here. And interestingly enough, you don't see this much in marketing. The marketing demographics have shifted dramatically in past years. You really don't see white folks in commercials these days. And there's many reasons for that. One of which is marketing efficiencies. They believe the most efficient marketing methodology is to have, many races in a single commercial, so you can attempt to actually maximize your dollar. There are other theories, culturally speaking, that they're trying to push certain initiatives. That could certainly be a contributing factor, but I think monetarily they're trying to maximize their advertising dollar, make one ad that appeals to multiple people, multiple cultures. That way they don't have 10, 20, 30 ads. Now, ironically, I think this does almost inevitably alienate some prospective clients. So I'm not sure how efficient it is in terms of the sales, but in terms of production, yes, it makes sense in that regard. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and play this.
I'm John Johnson. I'm a third-generation brewer at Anheuser-Busch. My father used to always say that everything we have is because this company gave him a job.
Good emotional rhetoric. Music's pretty good.
He loved everything about his job. He gave me that passion. I got hired here in St. Louis at the brewery a very short time after my dad passed away, but I just...
Dark. And, again, pulling on the heartstrings, telling about how the dad passed away, still working for this company. Again, this ad, I think 12, 24, 36 months ago, would have been pretty compelling. Especially even more years ago before they sold out to InBev over in Belgium.
Just thought to myself, I did it, Dad. I did it. I'm going to walk in the same shoes that he did. So I carry his ID with me every day in my wallet.
That's brilliant emotional rhetoric. They actually show him holding his dad's ID with the Anheuser-Busch logo. Now, subsequently, it's the Anheuser-Busch InBev logo, I think, for most of their global marketing materials. And kind of sad, if you're looking at a modern asset tag or ID, I suspect it probably would have the global corporation on it. But again, it's an old faded ID. It's been roughed up a little bit. Again, they spent a moderate amount of resources on this commercial.
And now my daughter Heather and my nephew Adam are also brewers. And one guy gets to go to work and hang out with his family. I mean, am I the luckiest guy in the world or what?
That's moderately uncommon, but with most larger businesses, the odds are in your favor. There's a lot of job openings. But again, I'm thinking from a business perspective and logistics, how common is that? It's moderately common. If a family wants to work together, they'll find a way to do it. They might not report directly to each other because of conflict of interest. And they don't want the look of nepotism. But again, for the commercial, if you're not, in a business nerd like myself, or automatically thinking, oh yeah, I work with XYZ clients where they have, they have multiple family members working together. Okay, that for the average person that might make sense.
If Grandpa was still here, it would be something for him to see this. They're the next generation that's going to take it from here. That is part of the pride of this place. It wasn't just one employee, it was bringing the whole family. Dad used to say that what we create brings people together.
Used to bring people together. A little grammar error there. They forgot that word.
That's what Anheuser-Busch is.
Was. Anheuser-Busch was. Past tense. Grammar matters, folks. And again, it's now known as Anheuser-Busch InBev.
You're part of something.
Now, it's no coincidence they're not saying that in this commercial. They want you to think they're, based in Missouri. They're, family-owned company. No, not so much.
That's bigger than yourself. We're just ordinary people making extraordinary product for everyone to enjoy. That's who we are.
Were. Very, very close to the grammar. Were. And the last logo is Anheuser-Busch. Let's see, there's 3 more seconds. So we'll kill that boring music. 1, 2, 3, nothing. Was that really how they ended the commercial? That's who we are. I'm actually surprised they didn't do like a job open. Now, granted, they're not expanding their business much these days, so they don't have a lot of job openings, I suspect. But it almost seemed like, again, if you don't know anything about the company, it might be a good advertising campaign to kind of get you interested in the company. But I mean, again, they shot themselves in the foot so bad the old cliches aren't working anymore. They're spending more and more marketing dollars. It's not working. They need to do something different. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again, expecting a different result. They're not working. They're doing the same cliche old. They're sponsoring country music events. They're sponsoring sports balls events. They're doing these commercials talking about the old, they're talking about the Clydesdale horses and all how I used to love the company. But again, that's part of the controversy. Now, a lot of people perceive them as losing their authenticity. Not only did they sell out to a foreign European company, but they also hired a trans activist, which even in that community, from a cultural perspective, that individual is controversial because Dill never got the surgeries that some individuals in that community believe is necessary to authentically transition. Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all the comments are saying we're going to go out and buy this beer today and celebrate as a family and bring our family together. I mean, probably not, but we'll dive in and find out. No. Gene Crawford says the best part of beer, bringing people together. Now, Anheuser-Busch, they're only partially inebriated by drinking Bud Light. They responded saying, quote, "We couldn't agree more." They couldn't take 1/1000th of a second to like this person's response. It's very minimal effort to click. I mean, truth be told, most people are using touchscreens, so you don't even have to really have any resistance like a mechanical keyboard. So it's even easier if you're using a touchscreen on your phone or maybe a touchscreen on a laptop. They could not even do that at Anheuser-Busch. They couldn't like this person's response. Now, I can't help but think, who the hell is Gene Crawford? Going to the profile, my first guess is an Anheuser-Busch InBev employee or someone who just wants free stuff and they say everything nice about Anheuser-Busch because they think it'll help with their odds of winning something. Well, let's find out. So Mr. Gene Crawford has 20 followers and joined in 2021. So pretty new profile. Going down to their post, they repost for the Travel Channel. They repost for Climate Reality. They repost for Bud Light, Busch Light or Busch Beer, Budweiser. What is this? Climate Change, Budweiser, Climate Reality, another handle. More climate change, Bud Light with the failed Bud Light Super Bowl commercial, Climate Defiance. So more Busch Light, more climate stuff. So again, Bud Light certainly did increase the certain demographic sales when it comes to hiring Jim Mulvaney. This person is probably this is the new audience that Alyssa Heiderchild wanted when she executed the marketing campaign so brilliantly. Well, no, wait. What's the opposite of brilliantly? Mentally vacuous? Again, they spent $185,000 to lose $1.4 billion in sales. Never in business history have you had that much of a loss. I think you could argue it's a bigger business blunder than most, even the ones that put other companies out of business, just because this is so many sales are gone. Now, granted, they have 40 plus beer brands in their portfolio. They're not going out of business anytime soon, but that's got to be one of the biggest. Now, you also have another one. Now, I might be a little biased, but this individual looks quite handsome and brilliant. You have the Topping Show says, quote, "I may not be a marketing genius, but I know this ad would have worked 18 months ago, not now. Take 60 minutes to have the CEO go on Joe Rogan and apologize. I suspect you can get 5 to 8% of the sales you lost. You'd get some great clips from the interview and put a stop to the bleeding. Shoot, have the CEO go on any interview podcast," unquote. Also used a GIF, or as the youth might say, a GIF, of a gentleman with a thumbs up and saying, that's one hell of a ratio. Good job. Now, granted, that only got 19 views, but it did get 1 like, which is better than what Bud Light gave to that one individual who said something nice. You also have Scott Wells simply said, boycott, getting 2 likes. Dustin Minnick said, quote, go woke, go broke, getting 2 likes. WCC is JUCO conference. Individual says, bring back Bush Apple, you cowards, unquote, getting 1 like. Who the hell drinks that? That was a real thing? Ugh. Sounds like taking an apple and throwing it in a gutter or in a pond. In Flint, Michigan, pond infected by lead water. I can't but think. WCC is JUCO conference. Going to this profile, I wonder if they're just a reposter. Let's see here. They have individual thoughts and ideas. So they repost a little bit. But yeah. Interestingly enough, a real person. I mean, I suppose that's moderate critique, just telling them to bring back a defunct product. You also have CM doing a picture of a poster. It looks like it was a Bud Light Pride bottle, and LGBTQ said, it was turned to an acronym, and the acronym said, let's grab beers tonight, Queens, unquote. That did get 1 like. Frank simply says, you effed up, getting 1 like. Adam Schiff, the United States representative, parody account says, quote, but Wiener is the best beer for transgenders. Our president bid it. Would be very proud if you were alive, unquote. No likes, but an interesting comment nevertheless. And culturally speaking, again, all these commercials, they're not working. I mean, granted, I'm a little biased. I commented it as well. But majority of these comments were just negative. Barely got any views. Majority of the comments were negative. This isn't increasing their sales. It's not shifting the brand's perception. It's not getting more people to like the brand or increase. What's the point? Are just spending dollars for the sake of spending marketing dollars? It's not very persuasive. Are you going to go out and buy a Bud Light because of this? I can't but think, I mean, again, just go on, have the CEI operative, now CEO of Anheuser-Busch, have him go on Joe Rogan and say, yeah, we messed up, we apologize, we won't let this happen again, we're not going to do this. Or do something crazy to get our attention. What they could do, which, again, given the demographics that I'm guessing of who drinks Bud Light and previously had drunk in the beer brand, what if they just came out with MAGA edition? Put Trump's face on the big red bottle of Budweiser, Bud Light. Well, Bud Light would be blue. But, I mean, granted, that would alienate some of their clients, but that would get some old clients back. Now, Trump, famously did say we should forgive Bud Light. Everyone should go buy their crap again. Presumably people who burnt their tongues so they don't have any taste buds left. But, I mean, they went so far left. I can't but think they need to do something like get into politics on the right or do something to, kind of level the ship, so to say. Because again, they're just doing the same middle of the road advertisements they've been doing for decades. It's not really compelling. And a lot of people just feel like they've lost all that authenticity. Which is why I think we see so many of these comments just officially roasting the company. And anecdotally speaking, I think I've seen one person buy a Bud Light in the past year. And again, this boycott has gone on for a year. It started April 1st, which perhaps is just the most cruel business joke in history because it viscerally destroyed the sales for Bud Light. I guess it's kind of funny. It's a lot of money for a joke. But let me know, have you seen anyone buy a Bud Light in the past year? And did they get any funny looks? Or in what context was it? Were they perhaps so inebriated that they didn't realize it was a Bud Light? Or were they starving in the desert and that was the only thing possible? Granted, I mean, some people might suggest you take sand and put it on your tongue first to decrease the taste of Bud Light, maybe. I mean, as always, let me know. I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have RFK saying Biden is a bigger threat to democracy than Trump due to the unconstitutional censorship. Now, this is first reported by Benny Johnson over on X Twitter, and is actually a quick little clip here, and that'd actually be a fascinating debate. Who has the worst voice, RFK Jr. or myself? Might be a close tie. I don't know. But without further ado, go ahead and we'll play the clip really quick here.
But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is it equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court that shows that he started censoring not just me. For 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat.
And Elon actually confirmed that as well, thanks to the Twitter files. Again, the government unconstitutionally went to the big social media companies and said, hey, censor these opinions we don't like. Which again is evil and morally and mentally vacuous, to say the least.
Democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, used his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Donald Trump, of course.
And of course, the first thing CNN says, well, what about Trump? Which, again, you could show them the proof of anything. They just pretend to be blind at CNN. Now, that being said, still check them out. It's moderately entertaining in terms of them being mentally vacuous on average. But the only thing that made me kind of chuckle in terms of this content, again, it's overall quite sad, concerning, considering the United States used to stand for the freedom of speech, and being Bill of Rights actually used to meant something. It used to be in the attention on limiting the government powers and protecting your rights, which unfortunately now the Supreme Court is so mentally vacuous with Ketanji Jackson Brown, or Brown Jackson, I forget. She actually said her concern about the First Amendment was that it was limiting the government's ability to censor people. Now, granted, we all know she's mentally vacuous, to say the least, because she can't define what a woman is. They asked her when she was being nominated, they asked her that question. She said she's not a biologist, which shows you her lack of mental intellect or how much she's a part of the cult. And the only funny part from this is, well, he's complaining that Biden denied him Secret Service protection. Given your family history, would you really want the government to protect you? Of all the abilities to have, you could hire ex-Marines, you could hire, special privates, you could hire PMCs, private military contractors. Of all the people you could hire to protect yourself, would you really trust the Secret Service to protect you, RFK Jr.? I mean, given your family history, I wouldn't go to Dallas, and I would not trust the Secret Service to protect you. Same Secret Service that is so corrupt they couldn't find a baggie of cocaine in the White House, the origin of it, where predominantly everyone knows is Hunter Biden. So that means the Secret Service is either inept or corrupt. Choose yourself. Now, going to the comments again, this got 2.4 million views and 71,000 likes, which is one of the most liked clips from Benny Johnson lately. One of the top responses comes from Elon Musk, and he says, quote, Biden doesn't really know what's going on. It's the far left machine that's responsible, unquote, getting 12,000 likes, which, yeah, let's be honest. I mean, the government literally said Biden is not mentally qualified to stand trial for the court case against him, for the improper storage of documents. But he's still in the country. They said legally he can't stand trial, he's not mentally fit. Which again should scare the heck out of everyone. I'm not sure how many people would really be surprised though. You also have Liberty Pills memes saying, quote, the FBI's greatest hits, and it has Waco, Ruby Ridge, Mahler, Bundy Ranch, Waco 2, Las Vegas, and January 6th getting 208 likes, which, yeah, don't be careful about your shotgun, and don't decrease the barrel length too much, otherwise they'll kill your dog and your family. Or you pay a $200 tax stamp and do the paperwork for NFA items. Shows their priorities. Chief Andrew Gruel said, quote, and the first line of her response is, but Donald Trump, unquote, getting 1.4 thousand likes. Let's see here. Liberty Pill Memes also says, never forget, and the FBI tweeted saying, Director Wray heightened the Bureau's compliance with Section 702 during the U.S. Senate Selection Committee on Intelligence, and the readers add context, said, quote, the FBI violated American citizens' Fourth Amendment rights 278,000 times with illegal unauthorized FISA 702 searches. They got 472 likes. One bad dude said the country cannot survive another 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency, and cooking 1,000 likes. Yeah, Mayor said, quote, Biden is on the phone with AG Garland right now figuring out how to charge RFK with a felony, unquote, getting 965 likes, which, again, we've never seen this type of political persecution in our lifetime. Trump did some of the same things that other candidates did and other presidents did, and he was the only one charged. You also have Harry saying, quote, and that's the last time CNN will have RFK Jr. on. They don't tell the truth. They don't let truth tellers. Unquote, grammar be damned. That did get 204 likes. Jill83 says, quote, I'm 100% Trump, but when RFK Jr. is right, RFK Jr. is right, getting 444 likes. Let's see here. RGB says, quote, well, here comes a nasty attack against Kennedy. He says what he thinks, and that is a very admirable trait. Unquote, getting 97 likes. And again, it's fascinating how many Americans do not realize that the government did censor millions of Americans' speech online illegally. And the average person still thinks that's a theory. No, I mean, thanks to these documents, we have a paper trail showing that they certainly did on multiple social media platforms. Now, that being said, will this hurt the Biden campaign? Probably not. I mean, a lot of people are already baked in terms of they'll vote for Democrat no matter what, they'll vote for Republican no matter what. And how many people in the middle are really accessing this new information they might not know about? And then it'll be interesting to see what kind of traction RFK Jr. has. Let me know. Do you think, I mean, saying for free speech, in terms of campaign differentiating himself from the competition, I mean, RFK he's certainly a good example of what could happen to your family if you allegedly mess with the government. But as always, let me know in the comments. It'd be fascinating to hear. What are your thoughts? Do you think he's going to have a really good shot of winning the presidential election? Do you think he'll mostly siphon the votes away from Biden or from Trump or in the middle? As always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Biden insulin price drop tweet is viciously ratioed by the comments because, well, Trump did that, technically, kind of. Now, President Biden on X Twitter said, quote, instead of seniors having diabetes having to pay $400 a month for their insulin they so badly need, they now only need to pay $35 a month, period. I want to extend those savings to everyone who needs life-saving insulin, whether you're a senior or not, unquote. That got 736,000 views, but only 11,000 likes, which is one of the worst ratios out there. Now, granted, it's not worse than Chris Christie. Nothing is in terms of the ratios. But interestingly enough, you see, they get likes. So, again, it's 11,000 likes. But lately, we've been covering these tweets. I mean, the comment ratio is like 95%, 96% negative. I'm fascinated there's not, even if you just pay someone to say nice things or have bots in there, I'm surprised there's not more. But let's dive in and find out. Now, Rich Mooney says, quote, LOL, Joe, Trump did that. You rescinded it just to redo it and steal credit. Once a plagiarist, always a plagiarist. I guess election day can't come soon enough. I'm clicking 555 likes. Guess Freedom saying, quote, President Trump promises justice for Lake and Riley, Ruby Garcia in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and 250 likes. Jay Henn saying, quote, instead of paying $400 for insulin, we made their dollar worth half as valuable and doubled their ranking, 518 likes. Matthew J. Show simply says, thank you, President Trump, getting 246 likes. The American Girl says, quote, thank you, President Trump, and is a clip of a news article from May 26, 2020 that said President Trump announces lower out-of-pocket insulin costs for Medicare's seniors. And that note actually was $35. So, again, it's almost verbatim. Oh, yeah, we did just copy-paste. Joe Biden press release parody said, quote, on the other hand, if folks die, I'll have their guaranteed vote, getting 279 likes. Scrolling down more, you have Trump AI simply saying, thanks, Trump, getting 137 likes. Jules says, quote, Trump did that. You destroyed it with one of your hundreds of executive orders. Then a couple years later, capped insulin prices to take credit. And you assume people forget, getting 26 likes. Let's see here. Toxic Something Podcast says, quote, we cut the copay for people who already control through government dependency. We'd like sorry. Quote, we cut the copay for people we already control through government dependency. We'd like the power to control the prices for everyone. Give us the power, peasants. I quote, getting 13 likes. Reichard says, quote, hey, Karen, press secretary, why don't you try to post about something else? I'm so sick of constantly seeing this And the damn student debt, like it's like you have nothing else to post, getting 75 likes. Let's see here. Income Shark says, quote, would be great to focus on health so less people need insulin and we could lower type 2 diabetes. Prevention is cheaper. Gun cooking, 84 likes. Let's see here. Eric T says, quote, and this is how it's done. It has a picture of Trump or Biden rather saying freezes Trump $35 insulin order, then raises the price of insulin, drops it back down to 35, then takes credit, getting 237 likes. Scrolling down more and more. And again, I'm reading them in order. I'm not seeing any contrarian statements to the group or any statements that are overly whelming agreeing with Biden. Let's see here. A lot of the memes of, take idea, shut it down, get it back up and running, take credit. A lot of the memes talking about illegal immigration dramatically increasing. Let's see here. Sir Gizmo 170 says, quote, 30% of U.S. pharmacies, not chain pharmacies, will close in 2024 because of these drastic cuts. Independent pharmacies cannot keep their door open, and with the drastic reimbursement Biden has mandated, CVS and Walgreens can because they just raise the price of other items. I'm getting 2 likes, which, again, is definitely, the bigger the business is, the more you can absorb certain types of regulations in terms of the cost and the impact on it. But yeah, the smaller the company, the worse all these mandates hurt your business, which, of course, we'll talk about later in the show with California's mandate for the huge minimum wage for fast food workers of $20 an hour. Let's see here. Blake Lemion says, quote, extend Medicare to everyone. You can do it through executive orders. Like, getting 4 likes, which, again, my 3 cents, you're not entitled to anything except the government like protecting you from foreign invaders. But there's some people who think the government should do everything for you. So I'm scrolling down, just overwhelming support for Trump, not Biden. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see, where are all the Biden supporters? Maybe they're on Facebook and there are other alternative medias, because again, hundreds of millions of people are voting all the time. And many of them did vote for Biden, and many of them are going to think this is his idea and they're going to give him credit. Because on its surface, it seems like a good thing. You're saving people money. But let me know in the comments, do you think the average person will realize this was just copy-pasted from Trump's campaign book or his strategy, or rather his former actions? And because it's such a blatant copy and paste, do you think this will even be used in political ads this year? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Vivek on the U.S. Citizen Immigration Services introducing a third gender. Fascinating priorities. Now, this is thanks to UNSIS, and they say, quote, USIS is introducing to a third gender option X, defined as another gender identity. Today, we published a new edition of Form N400, the first form to include the X gender option. This option becomes available on additional forms as we revise them. And Vivek responded saying, quote, the current priority of U.S. citizenship and immigration services isn't to fix the max illegal immigration crisis, it's to introduce a third gender option on their forms. Can't make this up, unquote. And that got 237,000 views and only 4,000 likes. Now, granted, this had time to boil in terms of the statistics. I took these numbers after 48 hours of posting. So I actually thought this would be much more viral than it was. Maybe people just aren't surprised anymore. But I'm surprised there's not more people talking about, national security risk of, well, if you have a form, you don't know their gender, it makes it even harder to identify these individuals. I mean, that alone should be a concern for some people, I would have thought. Going down to the comments, you have Paul Zazupa saying, quote, you'd think 10 million illegals in 3 years would be the primary concern for UNSIS, but no, gender identity is a priority. Unbelievable. Unquote, getting 15 likes. Rich Mooney says, quote, LOL, anyone with an X-gender passport going to a country that hasn't been affected by the globalist drive to push transgenderism on everyone, it seems like a good way to get monitored while in the country if permitted entry in the first place. Unquote, getting 4 likes. Planet of Memes, which A+ Marketing, they did in fact respond with a meme this time. They usually seem to do text. They say, before the meme, they say, quote, the federal government needs to be streamlined and cut heavily down in size and scope. And it's a picture of Elon Musk carrying a sink into the Twitter headquarters famously over a year ago. And it says 80% of Twitter staff slashed by Elon and the site runs fine. Can we do the same with the government next? Unquote. And they got 46 likes, which yeah, I can't help suspect there's probably an equal, if not greater, amount of fat you could trim from federal resources in terms of employee headcount. You also have Team USA that says the West is in the middle of a communist revolution. We just don't realize it yet. I'm quoting 56 likes. Joey Mariano says America is an April Fool's joke, getting 67 likes. Valentis Gomez says, quote, we have to start mass deportations before mass citizenship ceremonies. I'm quoting 31 likes, which not the best marketing because, again, she's running for political office. I don't go to her profile enough to actually remember which one. I just know it's not in the great state, or some might argue the country of Texas, or some people improperly call it Texas. You got to announce it properly. The enunciation is key. But, yeah, she should have a hashtag that says what she's running for. But nevertheless, she did get 31 likes. Let's see here. Blair Boyd says, quote, option is the key word. Is the key word. There is no option. You're either male or female. Prove me wrong. Getting 2 likes. Well, let's see here. A lot of people saying, so Joseph Mangeli says, quote, seriously, that's what they're focusing on. Disgraceful. Getting 4 likes. So overwhelming positive support for Vivek. Now, interesting enough, there are a lot of people who are going to give accolades and they're going to agree this is a great idea. So it'll be interesting to see, I mean, how many Americans really care about those types of paperworks? Do they see this, they think it's emblematic of a larger issue? Will this even be a top political issue going to the, it is election year. So there's going to be a couple top really cultural and political issues that really sway voters in the middle, which, again, politics is all about convincing people in the middle that you have the best methodology to do the greatest good and, help out the country. People on the left and people on the right, more often than not, they're going to vote for the party regardless of who's on the ticket, even if that person is barely alive or, is deemed legally not able to stand trial. But let me know, do you think this will be a compelling top topic to discuss during the election? Do you think it'll matter at all? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the business blunder of the day, you have California fast food prices skyrocketing, in some cases 153% due to the new minimum wage law. Now granted, perhaps you could argue that the business blunder is these restaurants not properly lobbying and actually, I don't know what it takes in terms of greasing the wheels with Governor Gavin Newsom, to make sure they're not regulated out of business. Because again, this is going to put some of these guys out of business. And contrary to the comments on LinkedIn, most fast food companies, in terms of when you go to a fast food restaurant, the establishment is owned by a mom and pop. It's a franchise business model. They're not all fat cats making millions of dollars. A lot of them are struggling just to keep the lights on. They're taking out huge loans. I mean, I think it's $1.2 million? The current investment needed if you want to apply for a they only take your full amount to actually get the opportunity to own a fast food franchise for McDonald's, but it's a lot of money. It's a huge investment. It's a huge risk. Now, this new law changed the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 per hour for relatively unskilled labor, which I would argue is morally vacuous because you're taking away opportunities from people who do not have the skill set to be that productive, thereby removing the bottom rungs of the corporate ladder and your opportunities. The government's saying, oh yeah, you have to stay at home, not work. We deem you can't be employed because you don't have the skill set to be XYZ productive for a business where they can make a profit. Seems seems kind of mean to me, or it seems unconstitutional now that I think about it, or I've thought about that for a while actually. But let me know your thoughts about kind of that concept in general. Now, some of these fast food chains are actually increasing prices by nearly $2, in some cases more. Now, this comes to us thanks to New York Post by Geneva Wong and Steve Healing. And they note that some of the biggest leaps are going from Burger King, where a Texas Double Whopper meal cost $15.09 on March 31st, but surged to $16.89 on April 1st, being a 12% increase, or monetary-wise is a $1.80 increase. Now, the Big Fish meal jumped from $7.49 on the menu before April 1st. Again, that's when the law went into effect. Some might argue it's a cruel joke. It is for small business owners. And they note that fish meal was $7.49 before April 1st, and now it's $11.49. From $7.49 to $11.49. I mean, I know public schools are all-time low for ACT scores. I think it's 32-year low. Great job, teachers unions. We'll do a little math here today. That's a $4 increase or a 53% increase. Now, of course, they say that Burger King is not responding for comment. Now, it looks like the Hart House, which is a fast food chain owned by Kevin Hart, increased their prices by 25% Before the law was enacted, the French fries cost $4.49, went up to $5.99. Milkshakes increased by $1. Most sandwiches up by 50 cents. A local In-N-Out burger price hike they were a little more modest, saying the burgers went up by 25 cents. Sodas increased by 5 cents. Now, Sean Fields, who is buying, one of the patrons said, it's not a nominal, it's such a nominal increase. It seems like a reasonable amount according to one person. So again, some people I guess are acceptable with that. Let's see here. Another individual said by Eva Marino said, quote, "To be honest, I don't like it because then everything else goes up." Who is buying a meal at Burger King? These prices have to make a living one way or another, but then the restaurants have to make up increase their prices. And of course, this is leading to, let's see here, a lot of people doing layoffs. Now they have Scott Roderick. He owns 18 restaurants in Northern California, or California, or California, depending on how who you're talking to. It's pronounced many different ways. Now, he said, quote, "As a business owner, when you're dealing with this type of extraordinary overnight change, a 25% increase in wages, no stone will remain unturned." So I'm not sure. Looks like he said they've increased prices 5 to 7% in anticipation of the new law going into effect. So they're kind of slowly putting it into effect. So over the past 3 months, they're doing those increases. So maybe customers didn't feel it as much. Now they note that the law, I can't imagine it's going to go well for people. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the comments will, as you might say, ratio me. But going to the comments, one of the first comments comes from Cutter Loudermilk saying, quote, "Working at fast food restaurants were not meant for people to support families. In the end, it will not matter much as the restaurant owners will look to abandon most employees and replace them with AI robotics." Like getting 326 likes, which a couple of them are definitely doing that. There's that first restaurant, I think it was the first McDonald's that was fully autonomous, opened in Texas last year. Now, that being said, you still have to have someone put the ingredients into it and service it. Gavin says, quote, "Of course, the cost will get passed on to the consumer. When will people finally realize that everyone pays for everything? Politicians buy votes with promises of high minimum wages. Then consumers pay higher prices for goods and services. Lobbyists get politicians to pay subsidies to their respective industries, and the consumers pay for it in higher taxes." Unquote. Getting 46 likes. DR says, quote, "Just as a reminder, the politicians who are deciding what people should be paid and how people run their businesses have never run a business or signed a paycheck. In fact, it's insane policies they have enacted that have created a need for 20 per hour burger flippers. They are pandering for votes to keep their job and could care less about how many people will lose their job or how many people will simply close down and move to another state." Unquote. Getting 188 likes, which, when you look at businesses moving there's one of the biggest ratios is the number of businesses leaving California versus going there. And an overwhelming majority of these comments are saying the same. Now, perhaps the business blunder was, some might say it's operating there to begin with. Now, again, one of the issues is one of the largest populations and densest populations in the world. I mean, the automotive community is always doing whatever California wants and acquiescing to their laws because it's the 10th largest automotive buying entity or area on the planet. Now, when it comes to fast food, these prices, they have to raise them to stay in business, but also going to decrease their overall revenue. So they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. I can't but think maybe the business blunder isn't lobbying properly, isn't voicing their concerns, isn't educating the consumers. Again, Lord knows the truth. I mean, the public schools aren't going to tell people, basic economics. They're not going to teach kids that. But at the end of the day, allowing this law to pass and not doing more to ensure, and again, some of them say they're going to fight it. But I mean, once you lose rights or once a law goes into effect, it's prohibitively difficult to actually get it removed and get your rights back. So we'll see at the end of the day how this happens. But allowing that law to go into effect, that certainly is the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, as well as sharing the video with your friends, so it'll help with the YouTube and Rumble algorithms. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.